New beginnings, so second day of Elul. This was the question Rav Shlomo said, are we going to be consistent?
Right.
First day we got all excited, second day, third day, by next week let's see if we're still doing the Charusah. Right. That's going to be the challenge. But BORUCH Hashem, we're here, let's take each day as it comes, and we're holding by the Chitas. The second version of the way they organize it is Gimel Shvat, so it's page 262 in Lessons Tanya, and we were talking about the how we've taken this beautiful godly soul, like an adulterous wife, like the Sota, and we've, God forbid, we've been unfaithful. So we've been unfaithful on a neshama, Kadosha.
In chapter 19.
Yeah, and in some ways it's more 24. Sorry, I made a mistake.
I think we were in the wrong
one. I made a mistake. That was because of the old story. Made a mistake. My mistake. But all the way in chapter 24, that's where we were. But Emes Lamito, that's what we're holding. We're starting off with the truth for truths. It's not. It was in the middle of Chita's Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat.
Look at that. I was just talking about Tu B'Shvat.
Yeah. If you're doing Chita's, it's just before we're getting to the 16th of Shvat. It's page 318 in Lessons in Tanya. 318 is the Gematria of Eliezer. Yeah, it's Yesh plus 1. Yesh plus 1. Because Eliezer had the car, that one little bit of Nakuda Tova gave him that. That's what Shmuel Dama was saying yesterday in his Elul Shir. We'll quote his summary again, hopefully, if we need it. Right. But he quoted Hashem Acher. What's the difference between Hashem Acher and Hashem Echad? Just that little dot. A little dot of ink, the Kodesh Shel Yud, the Nakuda Tova. We learned this once in Rabbi Nachman's stories. That little dot makes the difference between Hashem Echad, Hashem is one, or Hashem Acher. And that's really this whole chapter. Are we making our life about Hashem Echad, or are we making it Hashem Acher, Hashem is other?
Oh, I like that.
So and it's just a little. Ava ba'emes b'imito filu aveira kala. So it says in the Tanya, chapter 24, page 318, and then you've got BORUCH Hashem finding the practical Tanya back from Rav Chaim Miller. Very good. I'm so happy to see that sefer. That's samech me. Ava ba'emes amito. In truth, however, he commits a minor sin, a filu aveira kala, a little thing. Hari avora rotzen elyon baruch hu. Is what's the point? He's over on the divine world, the Ratzon Hashem. This is a Chassidus, very delicate. You have to Yiddishkeit becomes on a much more edel level when you start learning Chassidus. Example, I'll give you an example that I experienced with my Baal Tshuva journey. Maybe not everyone experiences this, but when we changed from being more Litvish, like Yeshivish, and we started getting involved with, say, bells. We got very involved with bells. Bells is a lot of chumras, especially on Pesach. Like, right. I had a Rav, his name was Ravida. He's a Ben Achaben from the Noam Elimelech. He was my Rav in Dayan and Charusah. I used to learn with him, very chosh. I still have kesher with him, BORUCH Hashem. And he told me the certain chumras, like even on Shabbos as well. He had a Masorah from his Zayda, the Noam Elimelech, right. That two mitzvahs deraisas you have to be machmir for, Shabbos and Pesach. He said they're deraisas, so you can't. So Belz also taken a lot of that. He's a Belzer. He lives literally outside the Belzer base midrash. He's on Kedushas Aaron number 1. Literally the first building there, next to the base midrash, the base of Migdash, he used to call it. Yeah. So now
that's what it looks like. The Belzer base midrash. Yeah,
it's Peledic, right next to the Belzer Shtib. So the Belzer Rebbe's Shtib. He has a big house there as well. So now Belzer Rov. So we have actually someone who's mishpacha who took his son right sitting in front of us. Took his son for upsherin there. Belzer Rov. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his wife's from Belz, so Belzer Einikel or whatever somehow. Anyway. You're Bubiv. So we got all the rabbis here, but the point with the Chassidus, what it does is it makes you very edel, very sensitive to the Kedusha of the Zman. So Shabbos, there's a tremendous Kedusha, so you don't want to do anything to take away from Shabbos. So this Rav went so far as he can't even use Chad Pami on Shabbos. This is one of the Chumras that he told me over when I was learning Hilchos Shabbos with him. And I was like, okay, but he's my Rav, so what am I going to do? So I tell my wife that he can't use Chad Pami anymore. She says, tell the Rav, if he comes and does the dishes, I'll take that on. Yeah? Because we used to have a lot of guests then, 10 guests like every Shabbos. Like all the Bochum would come around because we were living in central Jerusalem. So all the Bochum would come, Ned, Jake, Neve, all the boys would come around, Kesha, all the boys. So I always had, so my wife was cooking in this tiny kitchen, the size, it was a 65-meter apartment, tiny little apartment, had 6 kids already, and I bring 10 more Bochum. She said, tell the Rav he should do the dishes if she's so worried about this Chad Pami business. Right. She obviously said it with a bit more respect than I'm saying it, but the point, I went back to the Rav and said, I don't think my wife can hold in this chumrah. And he's like, So what I did is I took his psak and I brought it to Rav Simai's kollel, because I was more by Rav Simai than I was by him. Rav Simai's kollel, who were all Bokim and Hilkah Shabbos, they went over the halachas. It took about a month or so, they wrote back a tshuva to him. Wow. Basically, Rove poskim are not like him. Rove. He's like mamish a yochid. So now, once I had that letter, I said to my wife, "Don't worry about it. Our Rav's a little bit machmir."
Why if you get the paper plastic?
Yeah, that could have been a solution, but whatever. It was complicated. So he held it as bishul, whatever. The kitzur wasn't. Most majority of people say it's not bishul. Right. So he was a yochid. So anyways, we didn't take that on. And Pesach, another nekuda, with the whole Indian of chametz. I saw some of the chumras by his house. Like he had plastic on the floor. Forget about it. Yeah, why? You put it on the table. He put it on the floor. That's intense. And it was sparkling clean. Yeah. So it was like such high level. And my wife kept telling me, like, you can learn with him, but don't take on his chumras. Like, we're not doing that. So, but the point is, what's the reason? Because Chassidus is such a delicate thing that they understand the aveira of chametz, eating in Pesach, or the kedushas of Shabbos, of not doing a malach on Shabbos, that they would go so far because of they're so sensitive to the kedusha that they want to be shomer that mitzvah and not even do a small, slight mitzvah aveira, God forbid. So why? Because you're over the Ratzon Hashem. That's the bottom line. They love Hashem so much. That would be the panemius good way of explaining it, not because they just took it on because Zayda said. Yeah, they took it on because of the panemius. Hopefully, the tachlis apeirid miyichuda v'achtusa yisbarach, and he completely sundered from Hashem's unity and oneness. So the point is, we don't want to be separated from Hashem's yichud. Yeah, the achdus of Hashem. Remember, we're saying Hashem echad, not Hashem acher. We want to be with Hashem echad. Yosem mesitra achav v'klipa nikras elikim acherim v'avodah zorah mamish. Even more than the sitra achav and klipa, which are called the strange gods I judge. What the Balatanya is doing, this is the chiddush. I don't know if he's saying anything interesting there, but the Balatanya, what he's doing is saying that because we have this godly soul within us, that it's even more of a period than the actual Yetzirah itself, the other side itself, when we do something against Hashem's will, even a small aveira. That's how sensitive it is, the system. Of spiritual system, where more than all the things in this world that are derived from them. So it's even more intense what we do against the other side and all the things that derive from the other side. So when we go against Hashem's will, it's more of a nafkamina. This is the point, I suppose, you get out from Chassidus, that we actually matter. One of the issues, you listen to a Rogan podcast and he's sitting there speaking to that guy, I've forgotten his name, but the famous scientist, astronomer, whatever his name is. Yeah, he's quite famous, black guy. Forgotten his name. But that guy, he's a famous guy. And he'll go on. And then by the end of it, you're like, well, I'm just like this speck of dust in the creation. I'm like a tiny little, the way they call it, like a bag of blood and bones, like moving around. At any minute I could just blow up, or like something could end me. So I'm insignificant. That's what it makes a person feel. There's a point to that. There's the idea of humility, but there's also the other way around, is that we are a godly soul, that Hashem, even a tiny little aveira, makes more of a period than all the evil forces in the world when we go against Hashem, the Ratzon Hashem. That's what makes us very significant. That's the positive way of learning this. Shem behemoths, tumos, chayes, ba'ofis, tameim, shkotzim, moshim. So all these other things, the unclean cattle, beasts, birds, vermin, reptiles, all the things from the Gimel Klipas Tameis, which is, it's a significant point. Shmuel Diamond is explaining, I've been listening to Shomala, but he talks about the idea of Gimel Klipas Tameis. There's these three levels of separation that take us away from Hashem. Devarim, they're asurim. Remember, we learned they're tied up. The whole idea of Mashiach, when Mashiach comes and they won't be impure anymore, is matir asurim. It will untie the asurim.
Right, interesting.
They're bound up. We say it every day in Davening, in the morning, and Shbirkas HaShachar, Machai Mesim. One of the points of matir asurim is to open up the asurim. So we know, but these Gimel Klipas Tameis, until Mashiach comes, are bound up in Tumah. You can't elevate. It's stuck.
So Mashiach comes, we can have like a really, really good steak, like a real filet mignon.
Yeah.
Like get on MASHA.
Yeah, it's going to be labeled it. Now, what's an example of something that's really busy with the Gimel Klibas Tameh? As an example of it, Kamaima Yitosh Kadmach. When a man sinned, the gnat preceded you.
The mosquito, he says.
Yeah. So this is a famous concept that the mosquito or the gnat is totally consuming of itself. It has no giving.
Right.
That's the idea of connecting into klippers and tameh, Dov Kram Ltd, is that it's totally consumed of itself. Like you can picture it now, unfortunately, in this generation with people that they're completely consumed, narcissists, self-worship. This is the concept of a gnat. But a gnat, what happens is that you are now lesser than a gnat. You understand? This is a good example. Because Hashem when he made all of creation, what did he make first?
Right, he made of the creatures. He made the creatures. Before that, he made the fish.
But what was even before the creation?
He made light and dark. He made just
Before, all the way. It says Bereshis. There's little quotes coming out of the base of Bereshis. What's it pointing to? The Aleph. What's the Aleph? There's no Aleph there, but it's a hidden Aleph.
Right.
It's pointing to Hashem. And what did Hashem make? Rashis Chochma Yos Hashem. Rashis Machshava. What was the first thought of Hashem? Rashis Yisrael. We were the first.
Right.
The Nishmas Yisrael, the souls of the Jewish people in the world.
We were the first, right?
We were the
whole thing
Neshama
was created
for the point of us, the Neshama.
Right.
So you're right. Physically, nothing was created first. And really, there was only then, like you go through my separation, like you said, the light, the dark. Now, the first creation really was Hashem's first machshava was for us, Shvili Yisrael, the Neshama. That was the real first creation. Now, what was the end of creation?
And the creation was us also.
Adam, the physical aspect of Adam. Yeah.
Right.
So, if we listen to the neshama, then who's first? We are.
Right.
If we listen to the body and the physical aspects of creation, then who's last?
Right. Then
we are.
We are.
And who's before us? A gnat, a mosquito. So it's about priorities. What we prioritize the world of souls, the soul level. This is what I'm writing a whole book about, the United Souls, and we're first in creation.
Right.
If we prioritize our physicality and materialism, the other side, then we take that godly soul and we become the last in creation.
Right.
And that's a bizoyan for what? The godly soul. Because it's really the first in creation. Why is it now? That's what he's saying here. YITZCHAK. The gnat became before us.
Right.
So this mosquito now is preceding us. And we know, what's the problem with the mosquito? Or the gnat? Perish the af yitush shemiknis ve'enu motzi. This is a famous concept that it excretes. It consumes but does not excrete. So it's the height of selfishness. It's a klipa that does not give anything of itself. That's a hard reality. This gnat, this mosquito. I don't know if it's a mosquito. We call it a mosquito. We use the word yitush for mosquito, but I think it's a gnat.
Right.
It's like a thing that sucks blood. But
either way.
Yeah, they both do the same kind of horrible thing.
Yeah, they're just annoying.
Yeah, and they're annoying.
Don't get distracted.
And they're totally selfish. That's the crazy part of it. So, remember this lashon. Yitush machnis ve'ena motzi. You don't want to be like that. No human being should become someone who consumes and doesn't produce.
Right.
It
doesn't produce.
I think that's what, if we would follow through with the communist agenda, that's what most human beings, and the way that wokeism has gone, it will come like this.
Right, we just become like this country.
Takers and not givers. They don't do nothing for no one, and they just consume.
Right.
Pure consumption.
Yeah.
That's
very interesting that that's the again you take the extreme of everything. It's all about consumption, even when you go the other direction, right? It's like capitalism in its worst form. It's
that
just
also, yeah.
Consumption. But
extreme capitalism also.
The other way around, it's like when you try to only bring in R, so to speak, you bring in, let's say, so this idea of like everything should just be tzedakah. There's like dinim around tzedakah.
No.
You can't just...
Yeah, that what does it say in Perek Avos? Sheli shalcha v'shalcha sheli.
Right.
It calls them fools, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the imbeciles, like that's communism, it's dumb.
Right, like socialism.
Socialism doesn't make sense. Socialism, when used with the guidance, I don't know if there's such a thing, but the Fi Torah, meaning that we have concept, we don't call it social, we call it community. where the community aspect is true, of people looking after each other and doing tzedakah. That's the Torah way, like you said. But the problem is with the way they do it, it just becomes ganevas. And there's a bigger guy on top who takes it all. It becomes totalitarianism, or whatever the word is. One person ends up ruling the whole thing and ruining it. It doesn't work. It never has, never will. Which is the very lowest form of klipa, this idea of consuming and not giving out, and it's far removed from holiness. So hamishpas betachlis richuk, and it gives it of, and which kind of gives of itself even to those far from it. Kodmas leish chote b'shtarshlis yuridis and chayes v'rotzen elyon BORUCH Hu. And now it's going back to the person. Well, klipa represents egocentric, selfish. So even the lowest klipa, symbolized by the gnat, takes precedence over the sinner in order of the descent of the divine life force from divine will. So the way I explained it was based on MASHA bereshis, that the humanity ends up becoming less than a gnat. Because why? Because we're consuming and not giving out.
Right.
And how's that manifest in terms of because we're not doing Ratzon Hashem. The way we give over light to the world is by doing Ratzon Hashem. The way we take away from the light of Hashem and take for ourselves, become yesh, become an ego, is by not doing Ratzon Hashem.
Sounds pretty depressing.
It's quite dark, this part of Tanya. It's quite a dark part of Tanya, but once again, but it's tremendous chizuk as well, because it shows the power we have.
Right.
The whole of creation's going around us. Either we're neshamadik or we're like worse than a gnat.
Right.
And that gives us an understanding of the power that we have.
I think when we take a step back, we also realize that like this is not necessarily us. This is like somebody who is like, you look at these Yamach Shemam in Gaza. These people have been taking
money from the
society,
world.
from the world, billions and billions,
good
and
intentions,
billions of dollars,
kindness,
and all they haven't even been excreting. Nothing comes out of there.
They don't
produce nothing.
There's no
they produce terror,
inventions, no.
There is nothing coming.
No
out
innovation.
Zero.
Maybe they've been innovative in killing people.
Yeah,
that maybe that.
They have even their tunnels are schwach. Like
truth is, my son, when he was in all the Hamas houses, they call them the Palestinian whatever, but they were like Hamas houses because they said every house had Hamas paraphernalia. He didn't see any difference between the official Hamas and the general people. That was his experience as a soldier.
Are like, no, most people in God, whatever. Anyways.
What books do they have? Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf is all about killing us, and it was literally books. Also, they had loads of books how to kill. Loads of books how to use guns, how to murder. It's basically that's their, and even children ones. Children books. He showed me. I've got pictures of them and videos of it. He's got pictures of. I haven't publicized any of it. Baruch Hashem, it's not my business to. But it's because it's my son's and it's the army's. But he basically has this footage of showing what they are, which is they've been trained and brainwashed to be like less than a gnat, which is to basically, as you're saying, to just kill and take and not produce anything positive.
Right.
Whereas when we're doing Ratzon Hashem, which is the shame, because they say they're doing it in the name of God, but like Rabbi Sachs wrote all those years ago, Lord Rabbi Lloyd Sachs, that's how he wrote that it's not in the name of God. Right. There's no way God would sanction any of this. Mein Kampf, murdering, what?
It's crazy.
There's nothing to do with God. Yeah, it's the opposite of God.
It's because it's a little bit chizuk in here.
Yeah. Good. Let's keep it chizuk. Remember, it's only going to get better from here onwards.
Hashem, yeah, I hope so.
And surely the other unclean creatures and even the ferocious beasts, they do not deviate from their divine intended purpose. But they're obeying Hashem's commands. Yeah, even though they don't see it, they're not able to perceive it. Lo chazi, they don't see it. They're not able to perceive the fact they're doing God's commands, but they're doing it. Yeah,
right.
And what's the problem with us? That we do have ability somewhat through the Torah, through the commandments, through the Messiah, through all the different systems we have to perceive God's will, and yet we're still not doing it. So that's why it's more serious when we go away and do what we do, even though they're impure and all this stuff. Yeah, the animals, they're impure. The animals is talking about, but it doesn't mean they're intrinsically going against God's will. They're not, They're doing their tafkid.
It says here their spirit is aware, whatever that means, spirit.
Yeah.
Their spirit is aware of
Oh, you're
Hashem.
right. Their spirit does perceive it. That he adds in. That's the Perish.
Yeah.
He says underneath, it's apparently from Gemara Megillah.
Yeah.
The concept of the spirit perceiving the divine will. Kamashikosim marachem v'chatchem yeh al kol chayas haaretz. The fear and dread of you shall lie upon every beast of the earth.
Beast.
Yeah. So there is, in the end of the day, like we say on Rosh Hashanah, whenever you get to that pachtacha, the v'chein pachtacha, this concept of the pachad of Hashem is on creation,
Right.
and it brings achdus. It's actually a power for good. Perish V'zal.
Right?
Yeah, and as he says, it brings Chazal. The Chayara Mosheles. No, they're worse. I actually heard from Rabbonim when they say they're like Chayas Royals, and they say, you know what, they're actually worse. Because according to Tanya, the point is that they're choosing with a God. I don't know if they still have the godly soul, if they haven't pushed it out, but they have ability. They have bechira. Every human being on some level has bechira, and they're choosing to ignore the consciousness of humanity, not to go around killing. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because a wild beast would never defy a human being unless he appears to be like an animal. So that was the whole famous concept of Chaim, where at the beginning of the Torah that he had to have a letter put on him so the animals would be scared. Yeah. But the concept is that for human beings in Salam Alekim, the animals are scared of us.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's only when we become less than an animal, then they're no longer scared of us.
Interesting.
So we see another example. It's in Bereshis.
There's a lot of practical examples of that too. When someone is in his humanity, he knows how to stand before an animal and not, and they fear you or we control them, right?
Well, there's a concept of that they see that they on a spirit level are aware of the godliness that we are manifesting. Like one of the examples of Yeridus Adoris is the fact that we no longer use animals on a daily level. We don't ride horses. Animals used to.
Where did you hear that?
It's brought down in Svarim Kedoshim that as we've gone down in creation, we've less and less shlita on creation because
now
we're
we
less.
Just walk around picking up after it.
We're now. No, what are we now? I'm not sure we're sholot on. I think the phone's actually sholot on us.
Right.
But that's on where does the phone technology come from? From the lowest parts of the ground.
Right.
So that's the only thing we really have shlita on now, the lowest levels of creation.
Someone was telling me this, that
and even now they're having shlita on us now. The phones.
Technology
is having shlita on us.
Someone told me that Rabbi Meyer holds that the iPhone, it's an actual physical manifestation of a klipa. If you're trying to, that's what he says.
Well, but he's a makubal, so he sees stuff. But
that's what he says.
We'll take his word for it. But the concept is that as creation's gone, we used to have shlita on. How did Joe Rogan? He'd spend podcasts on this, talking out with all these experts. How did they build the pyramids? So we know. I wish you'd just listen to this concept. And he's never actually brought it up, but they had mystical powers that we can't masig anymore.
Right.
Because they were shola on high levels of creation back then.
Right.
So they could move around giant blocks of stone because they had spiritual powers, and they were tuned into the astrology system on a whole nother level spiritually. That's why they built the things the way they built. So they were into kochas, the much higher level kochas. Our level kochas are the lowest of the level. People think science, wow, how powerful it is. It's actually the lowest manifestation of human genius. We're on the lowest level of shlita ever in creation. And the craziest thing is, we think it's the highest, but it's not. It's the lowest level of creation in terms of our powers as a human being.
Interesting.
So it's a flipperoo.
It's like if you think about it, everyone the common argument is well, the life expectancy used to be very little, now it's more, and the response would be that I would say you're right, that through all these things, people used to die all the time, childbirth, all these things. However, look at the cost.
Yeah.
So a guy could have lived 40 years ago, 200 years ago, would have lived to 40, but within that 40 years, he accomplished more than an 80-year-old guy who spends 80% of his life on a phone.
Yeah. The quality of life was much higher.
Who lived longer.
So that's true. And also, remember, we did live long at one point.
At one point,
Hundreds of years. So it wasn't that, there was obviously a switch. Also, we lost that ability to live so long. and that will come back also when Mashiach comes. So there's a lot of things in creation that are misunderstood, and this is one of them, that we really are, depending on what we're believing in and what we're serving. If we're serving Hashem, then we're the highest point of creation. We have ability to bring tremendous divine abundance to creation. But if we're serving our lowest level, like base in inclinations, then we're pulling down all of creation, and then creation has no respect for us. And actually, we end up losing power over animals, and even to the point where the technology is gaining power. This is the fear right now. AI is going to rule over us. That's technology. That's the lowest aspect of creation, because that's where it all comes from, the ground. Now having Shlita on us, even that having Shlita on us.
I worry about what the tzaddikim say about this stuff.
The AI is another whole new level. But the point is what Hashem said, eventually, this is the comfort, he's going to say, die, enough. Enough to this, your readers, and it's going to get to the point where Baruch Hashem will hopefully do tshuva, tshuva shlema. That's the aura of Mashiach and aura of tshuva that we see in the world now, and that will bring the creation back to the shoresh, which is back to the neshama, back to serving Hashem Echad. So that there will be an end to this materialist descent that's going on. But Sadiqim she'ein salam elakim mistalek mal paneim, and this is with the Sadiqim, confronting the Sadiqim, that the face of them, divine image, never departs. So they always got the salam elakim. Kol chayas ra'as asfiin kamayu, and all the evil beasts are humble before them.
It's a very
deep concept.
Yeah, I was going to say she'ein salam elakim mistalek. That's probably like some.
Kamashikosa Bazar Gabi Daniel Bogov Arios with Daniel in the lion's den. When he was in the lion's den, the lions were scared of him. They didn't do nothing, Whereas when it was when he threw in some Russia, they just eat them to pieces, tear them to pieces. But when a person tzaddik has salam elakim, then the evil beast, and that doesn't just mean.
I don't think this is what he's referring to, but maybe a little bit. There's certain tzaddikim I remember seeing as a kid, or even today. Like you see with Rabbi Meyer, I've experienced, like you look at his face and it's shining. I remember as a kid seeing the Baba Rebbe Shlomo Halberstam.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
His face was like fire.
Salam alekim. They say by the Satmarov.
The Satmarov, everyone says, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I remember just as a kid, like.
Salam alekim.
I even remember, you feel it by certain Rebbes. I remember.
My dad ran away from Rav Simai Zilberberg.
Oh yeah.
He ran away from him on Sukkot. He was remember, Rav Simai's avoda begins already before Elul. Elul, he's already on fire already. Some say even Chaf Sivan. So he's already getting ready for the Yom Tov from Chaf Sivan.
Wow.
But he gets to Elul he's koching. By the time it's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, he's on fire.
Wow.
It's the highest point of his year. And my dad came to the Simcha Space of Sheva, and Rav Simai grabbed my dad and started dancing. My dad ran away. There was too much awe.
Crazy.
And my dad, who's very, very secular in that sense, was moded that it was too much light for him.
Wow.
And he ran away. Because I was somewhat used to his Rav Simai's light.
Right.
The truth is, the first time I met him, I was completely overwhelmed by his light.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I became more close to him and chassid of his, because it was such an awe he had around him.
Yeah.
Cain, he still has it. Probably it's growing even more. But Cain is just more hidden in it, I think, because he hides it more. Back then, it was more open. It's thus clear that he who sins transgresses Hashem's will, even on a minor offense. At the time he commits a complete remove from divine holiness, which meaning what? He's repeating the same thing we said before. Right. So he's explaining it. After he brought all these examples, it becomes clear to us that any separation from Hashem, even a minor one, is a separation from Hashem's holiness. There's no doubt, and that's a very big clarification of. But people think it's only a little aveira. No, we learn Pashas Ekev. Even a little aveira has become very important. Right. Yeah, so that's the way I would take it. Rather than say, "Oh, Nebuch, so I'm lower than a gnat."
He doesn't even care.
I'm lower than all the YITZCHAK. I'm lower than these phones. I'm lower than everything. God forbid. You can speak that way, and there's truth to it. But rather take it as a chizuk that therefore b'shvili olam, that all of creation is made for me, just so that I can now tune back into Ratzon Hashem. Because I have the bechira to tune back into Ratzon Hashem, and Hashem will help me, especially Elul, to tune back into Ratzon Hashem, and therefore become the point of creation, not the lowest level of creation.
Baruch Hashem. That was good.
Yeah,
that was a good one. We turned it around at the end.
Yeah, we always got to keep it on a positive flow because our generation needs chizuk. We need chizuk. Okay, I gotta go. Have a good day.